Good morning, Matt Johnson here. You may recognize me from Britain's Got Talent. I was the guy that did the dangerous escapes underwater. Right now it's 5 a.m. in the morning and I'm standing in my office. Today we're going to be talking about the techniques that I use, some of the tricks that I use, and some of the apparatus that I use in order to help me hold my breath. This happened 3 years ago. I was in Phoenix, Arizona with my wife. When my wife was working, I decided that I was going to try and hold my breath underwater in a swimming pool. When I went underwater, I found that at about 35 seconds, the need to breathe, the desire to breathe was uncontrollable. So I started to research breath holding and found out some really interesting things. There are things called a static hold, a breath hold that is done when you're not under duress, when you're not under stress, when you can relax the body. There are dry holds, which you do in a situation like this where you're not underwater. Breath holds that are assisted by purging oxygen. So you would purge oxygen, taking a lot of pure oxygen from an oxygen tank before you go underwater to fill the lungs up with pure oxygen. The capabilities of the human body are incredible, and I started to realize that there's a lot more to breath holding than just going underwater and trying to hold your breath. So there are basically two parts to breath holding. First being how to hold our breath longer. Second, how to put up with the carbon dioxide buildup in our lungs, how to have our bodies accept that and get more used to that CO2 buildup. There is a third part, and the third part is psychological. The third part is learning to calm your mind, calm your muscles, calm your body, because everything in the body that takes energy, for example, like a movement, even just a finger, or a thought, all of these things burn oxygen. The more you burn oxygen, the less amount of time you're going to be able to hold your breath. Sounds simple, right? It really is simple to understand, but it's very, very difficult to put into practice. Okay, so we're here at the point that we're going to start learning how to hold our breath. Now, I use a couple of pieces of apparatus to help me work on breath holding and breathing exercises. One of the things that I use is this little device right here. If you look at it against my hand, it's quite small. It's made up of this piece, which is like a soft silicone rubber, and then it's got a valve just here that if I turn to the left, restricts the airflow that is allowed through the breathing apparatus. If I turn to the right, it opens the valve up more and allows for better airflow. This is called the Expand-A-Lung. Expand-A-Lung. You can purchase these at expandalung.com. That's that website right there. Don't forget to put the dashes in, that's really important. Expandalung.com. You can also purchase them from Amazon, eBay. I think I got mine from Amazon. They run anywhere from about $20 to $40, something like that. The way the Expand-A-Lung works is it restricts the amount of airflow that is allowed into the mouth as we breathe. So if I put this in my mouth and try and breathe through it, it's going to restrict the amount of airflow, which is therefore expanding my lungs, which is therefore training my lungs and my body to deal with the lower airflow, which is ultimately going to help my respiratory system, my breathing, with my cardio. Ultimately, it's going to help with my breath holding times. The way this works is to simply put it in the mouth and breathe through it. Over time, by turning the dial to the left, I'm restricting the amount of airflow that's coming in, which is essentially making it harder for me to breathe, which is essentially expanding my lungs. Think of it just like lifting weight. As you weight train, you train your body to lift heavier and heavier weights, which essentially causes your muscles, these things, to grow. It's the same with the Expand-A-Lung. We are teaching our lungs to grow and holding more oxygen, which essentially is going to help us hold our breath longer. Another thing that I use a lot that's very important to me is a breath holding app or an apnea app. So I have an app on my phone that I got from the App Store. Now the apnea trainer is the best thing I have found to help me learn to hold my breath. Now, to get the apnea trainer that I use, simply go on your app store and look up the Free Diving Apnea Trainer. The Free Diving Apnea Trainer, and the logo for it is a hand kind of pressing against glass. It is by far the best apnea trainer that I've found. So when I'm about to do a breath hold, whether it be a dry hold or when I'm dropping into the tank in one of my escapes, like I did on Britain's Got Talent, what I will do is a breathe up. Now the breathe up helps me get the most oxygen into my lungs and the most CO2 or bad oxygen out of my lungs. I'll take a 75% breath in like this, and then I'll do 100% blow the breath out. Now the way to think about blowing the breath out is imagine you're blowing a little sailboat across a pond with your breath. So you want to force the breath out like this. Now as you force the breath out, you're going to contract the abdominal muscles, which is pushing all that CO2 out of your lungs. We're pushing all the CO2 out, and then by doing a deep breath in and expanding the chest and sucking in the lungs, sucking in the abdominal muscles, we are pulling in as much oxygen as we can. When I do my breathe up before I do an escape, I do a 3 breathe up. So the idea is I take in about 75%, I blow all that out. I take in about 80%, blow all that out. And then on my last breathe up, I take in about 100% or as much as I can. And then hold. When you're learning to train, when you're learning to hold your breath, you want to be nice and relaxed. You want to lay on a couch, you want to lay on your bed. You want to do a normal breathe, not a heavy breathe in or a heavy breathe out. You just want to do a normal breathe for about 2 minutes before you do your breath hold. Once you've done your normal breathe for about 2 minutes, then you're going to do your 3 breathe up, and on the 3rd breath, take in as much as you can, expand the chest, contract the abs, the abdominal muscles, and hold. The trick to breath holding is to calm the brain and put everything out of your mind. I imagine myself in the deepest, darkest ocean, and I imagine myself sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean. Everything's quiet, there is no movement, there is no sound, there's nothing else there. I start to relax, I start to kind of fall asleep, and my body starts to relax. The more relaxed your body is, the lower your heart rate will be, and the lower your heart rate is, the less it will burn oxygen, which will allow you to hold your breath longer. The higher your heart rate is, the more it's going to burn oxygen, which will shorten your breath hold. Now, the crazy thing about doing escapes like I do is they are counterproductive, because with an escape, you are A, moving as you're trying to pick the locks, B, you're stressed out because you're now in a situation where you're locked in and you can't get out even if you want to. So that causes stress, which burns oxygen really fast. So escapes are not only very dangerous, but very, very difficult, because you're trying to calm the mind at the same time as holding your breath. I always get asked the question, can you die from holding your breath? If you are in a situation like I am in my office here, where you're just laying on a bed or a couch and you're nice and relaxed, you cannot die from holding your breath. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to pass out. But the second you pass out, you're going to breathe, okay? Because the second you pass out, you're going to stop holding your breath and you're going to breathe. Doesn't mean to say that you should do this on your own. You should always breath hold with a partner, with a dive buddy. But in a dry situation, like on your bed or on a couch, there's nothing to be really scared of. But the danger comes when we do this underwater, because obviously underwater, if we pass out, we're going to take in water. And the second we take in water, we start to drown. So you always need to make sure you have a dive buddy with you when you're underwater breath holding, or a lifeguard. So how often should you practice holding your breath? Your tables, your O2 tables or your CO2 tables, and again, the best way to learn about O2 tables and CO2 tables is to go on Google, type in how to hold my breath or breath holding techniques. There's lots of information out there that will tell you how to do tables on both CO2 tables and O2 tables. Also, the app that I showed you, the free diving app on my phone, that has the O2 tables and CO2 tables built in. How often should you practice them? realistically, you don't need to do them more than a couple of times a week. You should also be doing a maximum breath hold once a week to find out what your maximum breath hold is and how far you're coming, how you're developing in your breath hold technique. So those you should be doing all together with all 3 techniques 3 days a week. That's it. You also, if you're serious about holding your breath, should be working on your cardio as well. Anything that's going to get your heart rate up and is going to work on your cardio, because ultimately the more in shape you are, the better your cardio is, the longer and the more you're going to be able to hold your breath. So this is a quote by George Lucas. And as you can see, it says, always remember your focus determines your reality. Think about that. The more you focus, it will determine your reality. It will mark out and set out your path in life. So this is something that I use a lot. When I'm underwater and I'm trying to hold my breath and things are starting to get tough and it's starting to hurt in my lungs, I will always say to myself, never give up, and your focus determines your reality. I think about these 2 motivational quotes. These will help me push my breath hold a little bit longer, a few more seconds, a little bit more, which helps me ultimately get to my goals. You can't get anywhere in life without working hard. If you want to achieve things, you can achieve anything you want to achieve, but you've got to put in the effort, you've got to put in the hard work, and never, ever, ever give up. Remember that, never give up and never be told no. I'm Matt Johnson. This has been How to Hold Your Breath. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I read them all and I try to answer every single one. If you like the video, hit the like button below. It means a lot to me. And if you want to follow me and get all my videos and subscribe to me, hit this subscribe button right here.